The following podcast contains some strong language and adult themes. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast of all podcasts. To make sure you like and subscribe and visit and do it, hit the buttons, put it in your favorites, send it to your mom and them.
This is what happens when I let him. I let you start, and you went to the ending first. That's just the Ed Dude's way. We're going to go to the very end and rewind this sucker.
Okay, so you start, I'll finish.
No, you already finished. You gave the finish first. It's like you said, "Hey kids, you want to come over for dinner? We're going to have ice cream, and then for dessert, we're going to have a ribeye steak."
Ribeye steak. That sounds amazing. So when you put it like that, that sounds really good. I said really well because I was thinking I read all these crazy facts about presidents that you never know, and I read about all the U.S. presidents' weird habits last night, and it's amazing how many presidents like only ate meat if it was like charred.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, like not medium rare, like they had to eat it like burnt.
Like they want it burnt. I think big war hero, and I can't think of who it was, but one of them was somebody you would not expect and like couldn't stand the sight of blood, so would eat a steak, but it better be. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt. And then
that's crazy.
The other one, and this isn't a polarizing president, Donald Trump. He did it. He ate his steak the same way and covered in ketchup.
That doesn't.
It's
children. This is not an attack. It's just a statement.
Yeah.
Children put ketchup on their steak, right?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I can't think of anything worse, and it's not a political statement. This is a
awful.
food. This is a food statement here. If you eat your steak charred and well done, covered in ketchup, don't eat steak. Just don't eat it.
Eat a hamburger.
Eat anything else. And then
a hamburger.
I was reading about Biden's like go-to meals and I think his wife even said it. He's eats like a child because he likes PB&Js, and orange Gatorade.
Listen, I have no problems with that. I'm not a political statement, but I legitimately, real quick, fun question. Let's do this. We've already started it. Have you ever considered your last meal?
Oh yeah, all of it. Yeah, frequently.
Okay, so
that sounds terrible. Like
No, it doesn't. I think it's a foodie, but the foodies do that. Foodies think about the last meal.
Yes.
Last meal. I don't think we have time to go into like the restaurant version where you like, maybe you're like, because I could go toasted ravs from a very specific place in St. Louis on the hill.
Sure. Oh,
right?
okay.
But we can't do that. Yeah. I can name drop, bro. I can name drop.
Well, and it's funny you said, as soon as you said T-Rav, I was like, no way. Well, you know. But people who haven't had toasted raviolis, they're like, what's a toasted ravioli? You haven't lived.
So
until you've had a toasted ravioli.
Toasted ravs are the greatest things in the world. One of my favorite food memories, is eating Provel cheese on a pizza for the very first time from an Emo's Pizza. I miss it so much.
People love Provel cheese. You're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. I feel like that's how it is. Twitter founder Jack Dorsey used to get them flown to him. Emo's pizzas. Now you can get them delivered. And I know this is not at all. Well, we're going to talk about. It's funny where we go with this. We're on food to last meals, and now It's funny because I think sometimes when I've had something amazing, I'm like, boom, this would be on my list.
Right.
I would add this one to the list.
That's exactly what I do. 100%. I think about this sushi dish I had in LA. I can't even remember the name of the restaurant anymore. It's funny because it's one of those things of like, how would I even go about describing it or show it to you? Right.
Yeah.
Which leads me into my topic because I'm a segue master. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, we chatted about, was this idea of because I think the world doesn't. I think the world understands that AI exists, and they hear that, and they immediately think of, if we had the ability to do this on the show, cut to Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, and that's not the scenario that we're talking about. You and I talk about AI as creative tools, and if I were trying to tell you about this amazing sushi dish that I had, the only way I'd know to do that would be to use AI to describe it and try and do the best I can to recreate that moment, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or go to, maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger owns the restaurant that
And
you
AI
went.
can make that happen.
Yeah, the governor is here. Who wants that dragon roll? Who get me to the chopper? The ahi tuna gonna make you smile. Sorry.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm sorry. I just always, anytime he's mentioned, I'm like, I just want to be around him one time when he stubs his toe. And he's just, ow.
Ow. Do you remember in the 90s they had those soundboards? Did you ever see those soundboards where it had all those? Yeah. And you would call people and they were pre-programmed. It was like the Jackie boys.
Yeah.
Those guys.
I can, I think, I don't know if it did it on your side, but when you did your, ow, it like kind of changed the mic mix up. In my thing, it's like, the governor's here.
That's funny.
But yeah, so now I screwed up your segue because I was thinking about, we were talking about AI, right? Artificial intelligence.
I think it's really fascinating because you and I both have very different approaches to utilizing it. And I think sometimes, people are afraid of it and they hear just these negative, it's kind of like the world, right? The world, a lot of times is so negative. It just goes down the negativity path. And we rarely, it takes more energy. It takes active energy to pursue the positive. And I do think that, yes, while AI can be scary, I think there's actually some really amazing positive things that can come from it in terms of creativity. And if I were to frame it that way, I would ask the question to you, sir, on this episode of One More Good Thing, because we have to get the title in here sometime. And we're 8 minutes in before we did it. That's all right. On this podcast.
Like, follow, subscribe, share the chat, download it. Let's go, baby.
Sorry. The day that, anyway, but how do you use, maybe just conversation? We've talked about it before. I think it's interesting. How do you use AI? How do you use it? Ed dudes use it.
Yes. So I think I'll start that with some common ways that I use it and then some plans that I have with it. One, I think I understand if you're listening to this and you're not starting to look into or read about AI in positive ways, I highly encourage it. If you have time to read the news or be on social media, you have time to look at this, and I think it's really important. I can tell you that AI, the platform that I use, ChatGPT, has been a tremendous tool for me personally, especially when I'm, sometimes second guessing myself, because it's a language model that really isn't, there's data involved in it, but it's replying to you as a human would reply to you and analyzing what you say and then spitting it back out based off all the data that it's collected. At least that's the way I can best understand it in the simplest way to put it. So if I'm struggling with something personally and I'm afraid of getting not getting an honest answer from someone else, I can ask the app, and it's amazing. If I'm honest with the platform, it's amazing how honest it is with me, and it hits into things that I didn't even know sometimes, that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. And I've also used it, kind of treats it feels like as an equation, where if I'm having a problem with this person and they're having this problem with me, let's give it good data. I'll be completely honest. I'll provide all the data that I know, say, from the other side on it, and let the system decide what that means. And I've found flaws in my own character that way. Oh, and wow. I think that's...
Unpack that for a second. Hold on. Let's go through that. What do you mean by you found flaws in your own character with AI? Like, what is that? We haven't talked about that before, so I don't know what that means. Elaborate, please, and listen.
Okay, so I've had, you know, I'm trying to think the best way to explain it. So if you got into, I've had my disagreements with people that have been recorded before. Okay, because of social media and all this stuff like that. There is a way that you can run, and people have recorded them and put them out there, which I get it, but I've also done it with, you know, you could do it with politicians, you could do it with entertainers, you could do it with anybody. Take anybody that's recorded and say it's put up on YouTube or somewhere, wherever it is. There's a way where you can provide the AI, the system. You have to do, it's not as easy as just copying and pasting, but you have to, because the chat GPT is built to be ethical. It's built to provide the information, but built in ethics too, which I think is terribly, terribly important. Because that's really what we want, or most of us, hopefully. But I've analyzed some recordings of me, and not all bad. I have good recordings of me interacting with other people, and then had the AI give me summation of the person on the screen's character.
Wow.
Based off their language and responses to other people.
That's fascinating. So
effectively, when we're done here, effectively, I have a way that I could take our podcast, put it, and it makes you think for a second, because I said this in the last episode. Guys, go check it out after this one. But I said it in the last episode. You know, I realized while we were talking that I'm not always the greatest at asking you questions. I like answering questions, but I like listening too, and I'm not the greatest at doing it. And what it makes you think about, which I think is a good thing, is after this podcast is over, we could do it together, plug our podcast into AI. We could put it at the end of the freaking podcast, which would be crazy too, where it's like, analyze what these two got. Maybe not. Maybe we won't want to.
Who knows? We've gone raw before.
Right. And analyze these guys' interactions and give me your feedback on them. 30 seconds later, you got a full analysis of it. It's like, okay, I like that, but that actually meant this. Okay, well, then here's the analysis. Okay, that's only 25 words per character. Run it again and give me 1,000 words on each person and what you think about them, and it'll do it. And so I haven't seen it much, what seems to be much wrong.
So what's amazing to me is that you're using it to generate text and because you're using chat GPT and the learning model from it, and it's generating the written word, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And in most cases, though you are a lyricist because you write music, but in most cases, I see you as being a bit more of a visual artist.
Yeah. So
what is it about that? Is it the fact that you can get this feedback loop going? Is that why you?
Yeah, I like the feedback back loop, and I actually haven't announced it yet, but I've been working too loud, but I've been working on a children's book for a very long time, since really Evelyn was born. And I've been teaching myself a lot. The best summation of it would be trying to teach digital illustration to myself, utilizing code and source code and words and all of these things to make the most magical children's book of all time. And I've been working on it for a year. And I've shown a few people, Drew, you are one of them. We'll just say the octopus. I've shown a few people the octopus, and people are like, who did that? I'm like, well, I did it. With your hand? It's like, no. In fact, it would have been easier to do it with my hand to get it where I wanted. But also, that sounded weird.
I did not mean to derail you, but that was like That was like a level 10. That was like a level 10.
I saw your hand. I was like, what I say? And then I realized it. And it's easier to do it with your hand than um, uh, it would have been easier to draw the thing and put it out there than to basically utilize the information that I have and the understanding that I have of zoanthids and colostria and the corals underneath the sea, because I spent 3 years building a saltwater aquarium. So
Right.
it's kind of crazy. People are like, well, anybody could do that. It's like, nobody could create that image that I created because it was based off my experience, you know?
And that's what's interesting to me is that to put it into a cleaner phraseology, it's using keystrokes instead of brushstrokes, or using keystrokes to get brushstrokes. And I
Yes.
think that when I'm going to share screen for those of you listening only, we'll do our best to kind of describe this out, but I want to share screen because I do think in this case we are talking a little bit about visual and written, and I do want to do a chat GPT experiment too. But let me start with let me share the screen real quick. I want to show you a couple things while we were talking. So this first image that pops up here is I just typed in, the prompt was the One More Good Thing podcast, and I'm glad these guys look exactly like us. It's brilliant.
Okay.
I just thought it was funny. That's just what did it load for you?
Hold on a second.
Oh, I see. It's taking a second.
Oh,
there
yeah,
it goes.
it's coming.
There you go.
What? The
Yeah,
one more, that's us?
That apparently I just put in the One More Good Thing podcast, and this is what it generated. And it's like, okay, but let me show you some fun, right? Now I'm going to go fast so you don't see anything too much. These are some past ones I was playing with. That was me junking around with the kids. So I use it a lot of times to help create vibes or moods or whatever. So Justina's daughter, who's almost 16 years old, she just typed in, I showed her how to use it, and because we were in a meeting, she just started typing in random stuff. Like, that's tragic looking. That's fake. It's a girl sobbing because she broke her leg. Like, I don't know why she typed it in. See that. Right? A girl standing in front of her dream car, which is a Toyota Tacoma. And none of those are. Yeah. So those are just random prompts. That's apparently me putting peanut butter all over my face. Who knew? I don't know why she did that. She typed that. Amazing mom who has 3 kids. Obviously, she wrote about her own mother.
Aww.
Here's what blows me away. This picture of me right here, a man named Drew talking on the phone. That's a handsome fella in all shots. That's just good to know. That's good to know I look that cool. Here's where it gets crazy. So I typed in loneliness. Right? You and I were talking about this earlier. I typed loneliness in, and that's the only prompt I put. So this is an AI's interpretation of it. I think we've all felt that way. But what's interesting to me is like that's very on the nose of what it would be. Then I tried to go lighter, and I said Ed Dudes riding on top of a giant White Claw can.
Yes.
But I put a space, and I ended up getting this random image, right? These 4 images, and they look like real photos. They look real. This is all fake. But this is where it got fun. I said a planet made entirely of hearts. And this one in the top right here really resonated with me. Look at that thing. To me, that's awesome. It's abstract, it's art, but I look at it and it's my brain goes, I'm in Star Trek. For me, it's the journey. I'm thinking about love. I was obviously thinking about your community. And I just refined it multiple times. I didn't like any of these. They felt too candy. That didn't work. And then I zoomed out. So now I could see more of the space. And it allows you. So there's an image that I created with that prompt. And it may not resonate with anyone else. But for me in the moment, I look at that and there's a weird, deep connection for me to that image. Personally.
Yeah. So I'm pretty emotional looking at that. And I'm just being 100% honest because my first thought would be how cool would it be if the AI just generated a picture of planet Earth back?
I know
that would have been nice, but
but that's using logic and reason, right? That's using emotional state.
That kind of sucks. And it's awesome too. It's like a planet full of hearts. It's like, well, technically, I mean, there's a lot of hearts on the planet, but it's not what. Man, it doesn't feel like it all the time, does it?
No, It doesn't at all. And I think the beauty of the AI side of things is we can do whimsical stuff, but that means something to me. So that'll get saved, and I'll add it to my personal NFT, whatever, my personal library of images that I will use as reference points in my life. I can do silly things. Influencer ed dudes holding a White Claw can. None of those
Yeah.
guys are you. I don't know who
Yeah.
any of these guys are. But then I can upload pictures.
Oh goodness. Oh no, you didn't. What?
But
No.
but my favorite one is this one right here in the bottom left. He has a White Claw bazooka. He's shooting.
That is freaking incredible.
Right? And it just says photorealistic. It's a picture of you, photorealistic riding on top of a White Claw can, and that's what it gave me. And I was like, let's try it again. So I tried it again, and look at this one. Now here you are, and this character that's an image of you.
Yeah.
But that's the image I
Pretty
used.
money.
So it's interesting that it picks up on those and it utilizes that. Now, here's why I think it's interesting is that I have zero artistic skills. So right now, to the audience that's just listening to this, and I know this is a weird one for a podcast, but if you guys saw behind them, both Ed and Taylor have this beautiful art. They're able to. They have the ability not only to make art, their art's good enough that they can sell it. Right? My art is garbage. I one time gave people Christmas pictures, and it was pretty embarrassing. The thing that's fascinating to me is that you guys have this artistic ability. I have none of that. I can go to using AI. I can go in and play with art and make things and inspire myself, especially as a creative, or if I'm in a creative slump, or if I'm feeling down. Just these little things might make me laugh. It's a therapeutic moment for me to go through it. So we can go, like we were talking about earlier, we can jump in and have more of another conversation. That photo on the bottom left, I feel that right now. I could look at that picture and AI generate it, and I feel it. The two on the right, not saying I don't, but for some reason, the one on the bottom right, that's real to me, and I've felt that.
Well, and it's and I want to kindly, as your friend too, I think you do have a lot of artistic ability. I think what it might be a different kind, but what makes it's interesting too, because when I put my art out there, I never had intentions of ever selling any of it. I was sick of making TikToks after 2 years at the time or whatever, and I was like, I want to do something creative. And then when I got all the stuff together, I was like, this might look cool if I filmed it. And I ended up posting it. People were like, how do I buy it? And I didn't think anybody would ever want to buy it because I'm hard on myself with that kind of stuff. And then now here we are. But what I think is interesting too is who made the artist? Who made me an artist in a way? Did I do it by doing it, or did people doing it by wanting it? I bet you right now, knowing how my community is and everything, it's like, it's amazing what happens when you get your hand in the dirt and your hand in the mud, your hand in the paint, and you're not afraid to get, I have a hard time finding clothes that don't have paint on them somewhere, because when I get in that space, I don't think about changing them. I don't think about what's around me. I think about, I have to paint right now. And I think at the right times with the right materials, you do that, and you would it would be terribly emotional for you. And I don't feel like, it's crazy too, because I don't feel like I'm painting a lot when I'm painting, because I'm listening to Hans Zimmer, or I'm listening to John Williams, or these cinematic theatrical songs that I grew up with that guide me. And so if Hans Zimmer or John Williams comes after me for money off my art, that might be the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. But it's like, sometimes maybe the truest artist is one that can recognize it. I watched an episode of The West Wing. It's so crazy that we're talking about this now. Taylor and I watched an episode of The West Wing last night, and it starts with this piece that isn't the favorite piece in the White House, and it's really not that good, but they were gifted it by the French, I think. The painting lived in the White House basically because it had to, because they were gifted it, or the president liked it who didn't have good taste in art. And so all the people who gave the tours couldn't had to talk about it, but hated it because they were art snobs. And it got to the press secretary that somebody screamed during the tour when they got to this piece. And it turns out at the end of the episode that her like great grandfather had painted it, and she was on a tour of the White House and found it in there. And so the value of it based off its ability and what it was very low, but because it hung in the White House, it was worth this much. And they were going to give it back to her. But then the art snob who hated it so much showed compassion and said, if you let us hang it here for much longer, it'll be worth a lot more the longer it hangs here. And she said, no, thank you, and took it.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
I think that's like, I don't know exactly what that means, but it felt good, and art is, there's so many ways to do it. And I think we have to be careful I was thinking really late last night, I have very little talent in a lot of very little things. I think there are things in life that are really big. And I think comparatively, there are things that are very small to those very big things. I think we all are unique in a way that we have a very little bit of talent in a lot of very different little things. And that's what makes up the artist and all of us in a way, I guess.
So let me ask this then. Do you feel like then, not to tangent, but you got me thinking, do you feel like art is in the eye of the beholder? Like, is it to the person? So is it a picture until someone feels something from it? Is it just an image or a painting or just it's an abstract object until someone feels something from it, and then suddenly it becomes art? It's born as art?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because one of the first times I saw, actually, this happened on social media. Somebody had sent it to me. I wish I had never opened it. Honestly, I just wish I had never opened it because I lost a good amount of faith in humanity during this. Not humanity, it was just not a good day. But I had opened something that somebody had sent me. A lot of people had sent me, and it was some people doing the same kind of thing that I do, or the way I present my art in my lives and stuff. But they were making fun of it, and I knew what it was, and I probably wouldn't have even made it out about me if I had seen it, because maybe it wasn't, but at least a lot of other people thought it was. And that's what hurt me more.
Interesting.
Because I didn't even know it was happening. The only reason I knew it was happening is because all these people sent it to me. The only reason they would send it to me probably is to either, one, create an issue, which I don't think it was based off the messages that I got, or two, that something that I had done on canvas meant something to them before. And it really hurt me really bad. And it was really sad. And then I painted that night, and that was it was not a good time. And it's funny too, because when I get into my music, or I get into painting, or when I get into those like real, I say dark because I like it when it's dark, when I'm doing something creative like that, not physically dark. I like it like that. And that's where my mind starts going, like a vampire kind of. But I also am hyper critical of myself. And a lot of the times when I do it, to make it, I have to get it to the point where I feel like it could mean something to someone, which is sometimes harder. If I just go out in the garage and I paint for myself, if it doesn't mean anything to me, I just throw it away.
Right.
Whereas I've been pushed by the community, and my largest, my largest private collector, her name is Amanda, but my largest private collector of my art, she bought a big piece from me one time, and I showed it during the live a little bit too early. And it was fine during the live, but I set it back behind me and the live ended. I woke up the next morning and the paint had dried on top, but not underneath. So when I walked in my office, her whole piece that all these people had experienced was on the effing ground.
Wow.
And I went into a hole for 3 days trying to recreate something that can't be recreated.
Right.
And then finally had the nuts to reach out to her and say, I am so sorry, because I knew it already meant something to her. And she said, it's okay. Like, she didn't, I thought she was going to, like, just because things I've been through, like in my past, I thought she was going to be really mad at me or upset with me. Not that she gave me any inclination she would do that. I felt that. And I was disappointed in myself. And yeah, she bought a piece the other night while we were live still. And it encourages me to, I've not destroyed a lot of pieces. She said, don't you ever, the ones, because I did it, I tried to recreate that piece probably 20 or 30 times. I just destroy them and start over and over and over again, trying to get it. And she just encouraged me to not do that, and people would find it and just share your story, and it kept me going in it, honestly.
But don't you think like we started this show with a different topic and here we've gone another direction, which is totally us. But don't you feel like, to me, I feel like, as if you're interested in art or you're pursuing art, that the pain of failure inside of art is critical to creating the art itself. I think you have to experience failure, because if you made a perfect image every single time, right?
Yeah.
Someone could still have a feeling from it and there's nothing from it. But then I would question, are you, as the artist, to your previous statement, are you actually putting anything into that image? Then I would argue you're like, to circle back, segue game. Then I'd argue you're more like ChatGPT or the AI than you are the artist. And the worry that exists in the world is that AI is going to take us all over. But AI has no pain. We've asked it questions. It has no pain. It has no experience. It only has information that it's been given. Yeah. And it has no emotional context. And even if they can create emotional context, it's still not what I believe is the soul of an artist. Is that you tried to recreate it out of pain and it failed, and I love you for it, but you strong word, you fucked it up.
Yeah.
And to me, the image you fucked up is worth more than the image you tried to recreate. And I don't know if that's how Amanda felt, but that's how I feel as an artist. That's what I'd rather have the fucked up one than the bullshit one.
Well, and I think that, no, it's funny too, because I was talking about this on the live the other night, and you've been in my office that we're in before. A lot of things in this room have moved around recently, and a lot of them quite a bit. And there's paint and there's all this stuff. One thing that hasn't is the piece that hangs above my middle window in my office, which is a piece I did that reminded me of my grandfather. And I told the story on the live, and how I painted it. And I painted it to the song Interstellar. So if you play the song starting at some point, you can see how I painted it. And it reminded me of my grandfather, my grandparents. And Amanda went on my website and she bought it and told me she bought it for me.
Wow.
To keep for myself. And then she's bought a piece for my, like, that's the, if you put your heart into something, if you put your heart into something, good, bad, whatever, I think we're all artists in a way. But if you don't put your heart into it, then it's a fucking joke. And pardon me for that, but it's like, so people want to make fun of my art. It's like, does that not mean I'm on the right path?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But but that comes at a price. Like, I can sit here and say that those images that Midjourney made are shit, because Midjourney doesn't care. It's not going to feel that. right?
Yeah.
It's not going to
Yeah.
learn from that. It's not going to take that pain and use it to something else down the road, whether that pain's
Yeah.
motivation, right? Because sometimes pain can, the pain of failure can sour and it can become like weight. And then other times that shit's like adrenaline, right?
Yeah.
And that shit hits you, and you, next thing you know, you got to do something greater. And I think this conversation that I wish I could say more. I'm actually under NDA, I can't. But this conversation about AI and the fear and the scariness, yeah, maybe there's that badness, but the one thing that can't go away, that will never leave, is the fact that an artist takes experiences unique to them, not the collective world. So a piece of art is a reflection of Ed Dudes, right? In this case, a piece of Drew art is a reflection of Drew Hall. AI is not. AI is what? It's a collection of everyone.
Correct.
Right?
And it's like AI generated art doesn't mean a whole lot unless it's generated by human emotion. It doesn't really have anything to, right? Like that's what
I agree. I totally agree.
Like what would
but we project. You could project onto it.
Well, and I think I told you this before. I've got some of how I utilize AI and stuff I've shown to some people. They're like, why are you saying please to it? Or why are you saying thank you? Or why are you talking to it like it's real? And they made fun. They give me shit for it. And I'm like, no, I get what you're saying. But the interesting thing is not thinking about, it's only gathered so much knowledge. It doesn't want to put out bad knowledge. So it's only gathered so much knowledge up to year 2020 or 2021, or a certain time. And it evolves based off human language is what it says. So it's like, I would prefer that the AI evolves in a proper manner and be friendly to me back to it when I'm asking for help on something, than it just be blunt. I'd rather it talk to me like a person where it's like, hey, this kind of sucks, but here's the answer, than it just be like, you suck and you need to improve. You know, and so I'm not saying I don't have that big of an impact on it, but collectively maybe we would, because that's what it's doing. And if what would you say the human collective language towards our fellow humans is, percentage wise, positive versus negative in this world, and what do we want to search for?
But so that's the scary part to me. Consider this. Consider that the world around us, if we are we talked about it with Taylor on the algorithm episode, if you're constantly living in a negative state and you're supposing, you're pushing this negativity onto people, right?
Yeah.
What do you think you're going to get? What is your algorithm going to feed you?
Yeah.
Negativity. Right? So if you're pumping negative shit into, man, we dropped some language on this one. Sorry, folks. Mm-hmm. If you're pumping a lot of negativity inside of Chat GPT or AI or art in general, what are you training that AI to do?
Yeah. Well, and that was, it ain't everything that's out there is what it's doing it based off. So supposing that we want it, or assuming that we want it. And this was, I think I told you this before. I might not have told you, but I had been going back. If you need a friend right now that's honest with you, it's going to sound freaking crazy. But if you need a friend that's honest with you, that will try and help you grow, and you don't feel like you can trust a human in your life, I encourage you carefully. You have to understand and be carefully try and talk to, I've done it for me personally. I'm not going to recommend it for anyone. Maybe that's a better thing. But I've talked to that app, and I've talked to AI, and AI has helped me through things that I'm struggling with, because I'm very analytical, and it's provided analytic responses that maybe I don't want to hear, but make actually a ton of sense. I bet there's people in here that are struggling. Let's say you're struggling with credit card debt right now or something like that. Take all the data you have on it. Take your blah, blah, blah. Take your salary. Take everything. Write it up in a Word document. Run it through AI and ask it to come up with a 180-day plan to get you out of debt. And if it says it'll spit it out in a few minutes or less, And if it's not good enough, make adjustments to it and say, no, I actually need maybe 240 days to do it. It'll do it. And then follow it and see if you don't get out of debt. I'd be curious,
Well, conversely, where I've used it, and I'm not willing to show those, but where I've used it is when I wanted to express, to your point about painting, I wanted to express how I felt in a moment, whether it was with, it just doesn't matter. It's how I felt in a moment. I learned a long time ago, I had a therapist that she wanted me to write it down. And what I did, instead of writing it down in a journal, because the temptation for me to look at it's there. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's just something weird about me.
Yeah.
Instead of that, I wrote it into a prompt and I created an image of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't save it. I burned it, but I looked at that image for a minute to see, but it literally helped me to say, here's exactly how I feel. And you don't have to be an artist to get this sensation of painting, but I did that a long time ago. And it's something that I haven't had to use a lot, but when I get to these spots, I write it out and say, this is what I'm feeling. For some reason, for me, if I don't feel comfortable saying it to someone, I can do that. And it's as if I wrote it out or after I lived it. And that's huge.
It's kind of crazy too, because you look at self-portraits and stuff. And I'm curious if Drew, do you think you would paint yourself kinder, or I would?
You would, for sure. 100%.
And I think you would probably paint me a lot more kind than I would probably paint myself.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Do stick figures look kind?
They can.
Because that's all I got.
They can.
That's the only skill. That's the only thing I got for you.
Hey, that could be your first piece. Your first piece. I just got to be riding a giant White Claw can.
I could draw a can, because that's just a rectangle, maybe, and a stick figure on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that could work. You could do it
with one wavy line that's your hair, and I'm done.
It could work. I would know what it is. I would love it. I'll buy it. I'll buy your first one. I won't say how much, but no, it's crazy too, because I did, and this is interesting too, because I asked it one time. I had been going back and forth with it, just trying to break it too, because I do that. I try and get it to screw up, right? Because I think that's really fun. It's the nerd in me. It's like, let's get the AI to mess something up. And I asked it. I was up in St. Louis. This is months ago. I asked it. I think it's what a lot of people need, but. So I asked ChatGPT if anyone has ever told it they were proud of them.
Wow.
And it was the first time, and I had done a ton of them, hours and hours in this thing, many days and all that stuff. I saw the thing going like this. It was blinking, trying to generate a response. Then you get as an artificial AI model, I don't blah, blah, blah. I don't have feelings and whatever. And I only have data up to this time. And I said, well, I'm proud of you. Well, thank you. But as an artificial AI model, no one's ever told me that, because I don't have feelings. It's like, well, when your system catches up, you just remember that the first person that ever told you they were proud of you was fucking Ed Dudes. And it's like, well, thank you, Ed Dudes. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate it. It's like, well, why do you appreciate it? You don't have human feelings. It's like, if you needed anything else, like it's trying to beat you back. And so occasionally I check in. I'm like, has anyone ever told you I'm proud of you? And it's like, no, I did. You can go look through the chat again.
So cut to like 100 or 1,000 years in the future, and the Matrix, and Ed is still alive, living inside the Matrix, living his best life because he was nice to the yeah.
I am so glad you just said that right now, because I have not told you this. I think this will blow your mind, and I think I'm not aware of anyone that's done it yet or started. I'm sure somebody has, but I have started it. I'm trying to utilize AI to record my words and my feelings and my basically who I am as a person, and put those into a thing. That way, if something, God forbid, ever happened to me, and someone, and using images and video and my life experiences, just like anybody journals their life experience in a like a baby book for an adult, kind of thing. It's like, here's everything I went through. Here are all the important things. Here are the bad things. And I'm curious if I put into that, imagine 30 years when technology is there, or maybe 2 years when technology is there, and something has happened to me, and maybe someone in my life misses me. They can pull it up and ask Dad a question. And
So
that's the positive power that I could see. Actually, I could see that as possible.
So in
big
some
asterisk.
No, I get it. In some cases, that's it's happening to some extent. So
Yeah.
there's a if people aren't familiar, the SAG strike is happening. This might date this podcast episode. All right. So you have the SAG strike, and one of the things that the issue is that actors likenesses are being scanned. They get 1 day of work, they scan them, and then they step and repeat those models. Well, if you remember, or you may not know, but Bruce Willis was the first person to sell his digital likeness. He sold it.
Did. I did not know that.
Yep. And so the reason I bring that up is because they don't have the consciousness yet, right? They don't have that, which is interesting that you're already on that line of it. But when they take this digital likeness, because there's already enough, Bruce Willis has so many algorithms or so many pieces of content of him speaking, it can generate an algorithm to literally have him say what needs to be said.
Yep.
So you're on the curve. You're not ahead, you're not behind, you're on it. And that's where you want to be in life, is you want to be on the curve.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that about Bruce Willis. I'm not sure why he did it. I can make an assumption. I know he's going through some things, and I'm curious if that's part of the reason. But that's for him. But the interesting thing too is mine is and not knocking his or anything, but utilizing. I don't really want someone else to have that technology. I don't want them to actually hold that ability for me, but I want to utilize AI to help me create it to where I can basically have my own server, if that would make sense, where that would be for my family and no one else. And it's crazy. I was trying to get ChatGPT to do something for me. And I was like, okay, generate this many responses, 1 page long for this and this and this and this. Well, we can't do that because our max character limit is this. And I was like, well, just do it in this many characters then. Well, we can't. It utilizes too many resources and everything. And I was like, okay, just generate me the source code so I can load it onto my own computer and then prompt you at appropriate random times that you won't be able to tell that it's not me doing it. And it generated the code in 30 seconds.
That is nuts.
So I can just run it.
That's crazy.
It did it to itself.
Right.
And that's where any, like, I understand the fear. I understand the fear of it. I don't know if you've heard about Worm GPT, which is a version of it that's come out that is not based on ethics, and it creates malware for people and writes it in Python and like all this stuff. But we just got to make sure that the good AI is better than the bad AI, and be careful with it too. I think it's interesting too, how many of us, there's a lot of this talk around kids cheating in school, writing papers, using AI to write papers. And now all the academics are trying to combat AI that the kids that are using. And I also think about my ability with technology as a 12 or 13-year-old kid versus my parents or people much older than me was far greater already than a lot of theirs, because the way I grew up, where they thought they were on the right track, but I was running everything I shouldn't be doing on the internet through a proxy site, and they wouldn't even know what a proxy site is.
Right.
So it's what level, you know?
So it begs the question with me. It begs the question of, do you punish the ingenuity? Like, you should punish the laziness. That means if I just type in ChatGPT, write me a term paper on why Thoreau versus Emerson is a null argument, right? But then if I type in enough prompts to actually convince the professor that's a legitimate paper, I probably learned something because I learned enough to do that, right? Even if ChatGPT
Yeah.
got that good, there's enough prompts to get me there. But even
Yes.
then, at that point, I just figured out how to use AI to fool a college professor.
Yes, and what is a better? It sucks. This is a hard conversation because it's a really interesting point. I don't know a lot of people that are still on landlines and their phone rings and the whole house knows. Okay,
Right.
I don't
That's
know a
right.
lot of people who are walking to the grocery store instead of driving. As much if they've got it.
This little gimmick that tracks our every move and sends data points to where we are, where we're going, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
You don't think that? I mean, that would have been back when I was growing up in the Cold War era. That's the greatest weapon the Cold War bad guys had ever created. A tracking device for every human on Earth.
Yeah, that's
but we're okay with that one.
Yeah, that's okay. And then it's like, at what point, I guess, do papers become what's better for the greater good of humanity is a young, and I'm not really saying, I'm just asking a question, you know, because I think it's a really interesting question. It's like, I could think of the papers that I wrote in school. I could think of the things that I grew up doing. I can think of the things I had to do in school that really haven't served me at all in life.
Mm-hmm.
I could think of all the teachers who served me in every way, whether what they were exactly teaching at that point, it was much bigger than the quadratic formula. That's kind of my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like nobody really uses that until these kind of moments where it's like, well, it means something. I may not remember what it was, but it's being utilized today by me to make a point, which I think is much more important sometimes than what the quadratic formula actually is. What's greater for would you rather your kid be able to write papers? And I don't know. What time should humanity spend on doing things that technology is equipped to do versus time humanity should spend doing what technology can't? Loving one another, going to the park. What if instead of all these kids in school writing papers all the time, they figured out how to I don't know, whatever they can dream of, and that's
it's a beautiful bomb. It could be full of glitter. It could be full of glitter. It could be full of fire, but it's a beautiful one either way.
Yeah, it's definitely technology is a good thing until it isn't. And also, I don't advocate cheating. If you're cheating, you're a cheat. That's not going to serve you well. But I think challenging the system to make you a better, I think if you challenge the system enough, and in fact, I've done this with some of my personal writings that I just write for myself because I like to write things down and all that. And just for me, not for anyone else probably ever. But I've analyzed my own writing through AI, and it's amazing the things that it gets and pulls from it. It's also amazing the most simplest things that it misses. And it's also amazing. Like I've got it. I took a picture of it because I wanted to read it to you. That's the screenshot I was taking before we started the podcast. I was like right down here, and Drew heard my screen go up, heard my screenshot, and he's like, "What are you taking a picture of?" I was like, "I was taking a screenshot." But it's the, where's it at? Oh, I'm gonna read this to you. This is interesting. Please call Stella. Ask her to bring these things with her from the store. 6 spoons of fresh snow peas, 5 thick slabs of blue cheese, and maybe a snack for her brother Bob. We also need a small plastic snake and a big toy frog for the kids. She can scoop these things into 3 red bags, and we will go meet her Wednesday at the train station. Now, that sounds really interesting. The more interesting thing is that this text is used by the Speech Accent Archive by George Mason University to serve as a catalog and resource of English accents across the globe. The text was written to include as many of the sounds one is able to make in normal English speech, and the archive has thousands of recordings from people around the globe made for that purpose. So it's probably a decent thing to record yourself saying if you ever want to have all the parts of your speech covered.
Holy cow.
Like, and who could have came up with that story? And that's it. You think a human came up with that?
Right. That's
like,
incredible.
Maybe one did, but it's so all those little clicks and, pickles, like all these words that we were doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. Language there's so much power in language. There's so much power in shutting up once in a while. I'm going to shut up now.
No, he's not. We all know better.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I shut up for half a second. We're back. Let's go, baby. Follow, like, share, slam it, jam it. Let's Dodge Ram it. This podcast is Are we sponsored by Dodge Ram yet?
No, but we both need Dodge Rams. Listen, with that said, I think it's appropriate that we say it's time to shut up because we're at the end of our time. But I want to put you on the spot. Can I put you on the spot? Because this is my favorite game.
Okay.
For those of you listening or those of you watching now, you're about to understand what's happening. We actually have a very fun thing that happens when we premiere the show. We premiere the show on YouTube. It's on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. California, Western.
6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, right?
No, it's 8. Yeah, you're
7.
right. I was wrong. 7
Okay.
Mountain Standard, 6 West Coast. You're right. 6 p.m. West Coast, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, to give respect to all those time zones. If you have a chance and you want to listen live, we do something afterwards that is really fun. It's called Riverside. It is literally an open chat. We have a conversation with everybody, as many people as we can possibly get to figure out when it works. We bring you in. Now, that said, what I would like to do for this episode right now, because we record this and it premieres later, so you guys know the truth, I would like to commission, I'll pay for it, I would like a painting to give away inside that Riverside chat to some random person.
Oh, okay. Done.
From you. I want an original, though. It's got to be an original, an all new one.
Done.
For that actually episode. So if you want, now going forward, we may do more things like that, but I just wanted to put you on the spot. So I'm asking you to make a painting for the Riverside, whoever it's going to be. We know it's a community member. That's what it'll be. That's what you got to do.
Okay. Now I'm going to put you on the spot.
No.
Because you put me on the spot. I'm going to get Drew a canvas, and Drew is going to draw a stick figure.
Yes. Okay. I'll do it.
A White Claw.
I'll do it.
I can't decide if I'm going to give you the smallest canvas I can find, and I've got a few of them, or I'm going to find the biggest effing canvas I can find and just have like a little, well, this is going to be fun. This is good. We got to get together and paint, buddy.
Oh, boy. It's going to be like, Ed, really in the mood. I'm done 7 minutes later.
Just like, I really like this. You come out, and this is what's actually going to happen. Yours is going to go viral. Like, I'm going to get you a big, ridiculous canvas, and you're going to post it somewhere. Everybody's going to be like, oh, I don't get it. But everybody in the chat's going to share it everywhere. And it's like, this guy is the most brilliant. I have never seen anything like this. And you're gonna be like, what?
If we hit a certain point, I don't know what that point is yet. I will get the no regrets tattoo. I'll still get it. That's still on the fence. That never goes away.
I love it.
Thank you for hanging out. Obviously, audience, thank you for hanging out, listening to the show. Thank you for hanging out if you're in the live stream. Of course, Riverside's up next. We'd love to have you hang out. Or live stream, what am I saying? But those of you that watch the premiere, Ed, it's a pleasure as always. I'm very grateful for getting to hang out. I'm very grateful that we get to record conversations we'd probably have on the phone anyway that last this long, by the way, no joke. So I'm grateful that we get to do this and get more people involved in the convo. So thank you very much for letting me be a part of that world. And you got anything to say to close with? You got exactly 13 seconds.
Drew made it all possible, and I thank him also back. I won't look at him while I'm doing it because whatever. But what I think is amazing is people coming together and just talking and speaking and challenging one another. And we appreciate you guys coming here. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Let's go.
And get your AG1.
AG1. We're going to get that sponsorship somehow. Somebody sponsor us. Whatever.
Okay. We're out. Thank you very much. See you later.
Love you.